this is the Friday edition of The Source. I'm Tiffany Bacon, and I say thank you so much for joining me. So in this segment, I want to introduce you to someone whose legacy you should know very well. And he is in Philadelphia this weekend for a very, very special reason. This guest of mine is the great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass. He is part of the Frederick Douglass Family Initiative, which is honoring Frederick Douglass's 200th birthday by reprinting and distributing 1 million copies of Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave. And he is presenting this to students all around the world. I welcome to the program today, Mr. Kevin Douglas Green. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the program.
Tiffany, I love that introduction. I need to bring you around the country with me.
Not a problem. I got to give you your just due. Thank you so much for that. Welcome to Philly. So we know why you're here. You have an amazing legacy. I want to get into that. But first and foremost, let's talk about your schedule for this weekend. You were giving out these books, making sure students have them. Tell us about the specifics of what you're doing here in Philadelphia and how we can find you all around the city.
Okay. Well, I got in yesterday, and I had the opportunity to go visit the Mathematics, Civics, Science Charter School of Philadelphia and meet with Ms. Veronica Joyner, and had a real nice conversation with her, and the opportunity to talk to some of her students and present books to her students. And there's actually a group of students that was going to Chicago to do mock trials. So that was a real special treat to meet them. So that was my kickoff day yesterday. And so today, which I guess is part of one of my main events for Friday, which is today, is at the Union League of Philadelphia. The Frederick Douglass Family Initiative is actually has the honor of being able. So this is the book that you mentioned right here. Is that we are able to provide the Union League a couple of books for their library. And for their historical library, this particular book is actually going to be signed by myself, great-great-grandson, Nettie Washington Douglass, the great-great-granddaughter, and Kenneth Morris, who's a great-great-great-grandson. And Nettie and Kenneth are actually descendants of Booker T. Washington also. So that is that is another outstanding link in our family history. And those two are actually the founders of the Frederick Douglass Family Initiative. And that's awesome. So that's going to be, that's what's happening today. It's like I say, it's a breakfast here at the Union League. And a lot of, the Union League is very, very high on history. A lot of knowledgeable people here. And very, very accommodating. So that's awesome to be here.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow we have a dinner program with the Hope Alliance, and that's helping organizations promote equality. So that's tomorrow from 3 to 7 p.m. And there's going to be a lot of different special guests, Tuskegee Airmen and Battle of the Bulge veteran and freedom fighters, just a lot of different people in musical performances, Ruth Naomi Floyd.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yes, she is, and I actually haven't met her yet, but I follow her, so I get to see her passion for
Mm-hmm.
Frederick Douglass
Yeah.
and her website and the information that she does with her Jazz Institute is awesome because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
jazz lover also, so that link really bonds us together. But yeah, we'll be there. Um, have the opportunity to present books to some deserving young people there. So
Mm-hmm.
with this narrative, one of the basic things about this is that we always try to emphasize to people, as nice as it is to be able to say, hey, be able to get a
Mm-hmm.
book from a descendant. These books were specifically designed for young people. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we are reaching out to. So that's why going to the charter school yesterday was so important to me, that I always say, whenever I come and do something, I always want to make sure that I am working with, even if it's a program like today with the Union League, that I have the opportunity to meet and present books to young people, because that's what this is designed for,
Mm-hmm.
uh, to get them involved
Mm-hmm.
with each other, with the program, and just be able to, make history personal for them. If you have a historical book that has your name in it, then that makes it personal to you, whether you wrote that
Yeah.
book or not. So I think that's very important. So that's what the book was designed for.
Fantastic. I want to ask about you personally growing up with such rich lineage, with such an infamous great great grandfather. What was that like? Were there moments where you felt like, wow, I have this big looming figure to live up to, and therefore I need to do things a certain way, or I will bring shame to the name or shame to the legacy? Or did you not feel that at all? Tell us about that.
Well, to start off with this, I'm a military brat, so that's the term I can use, because that's what I was. My father was in the military, and I was actually born in Paris, France. But I was raised in California, so I was not raised on the East Coast. I was not raised amongst what I would always consider Douglas mystique. My mother, who is actually the descendant of Frederick Douglass, that I am linked to, she was raised in Washington D.C., and she was known as as a Douglas descendant. So being raised in California, I did not have, I would say for myself, I did not have any pressure as far as uh, my representation of being a descendant of Frederick Douglass. I always talk, sometimes I talk about when was it that, that light bulb moment, or you figure out is sometime around sixth grade. I remember that my mother brought me back to the East Coast, and I visited the Douglas home in Anacostia, and going to Highland Beach up in Annapolis area. And so that's when I actually realized who Frederick Douglass was, as far as my relationship to him, and actually meeting people that my mother knew and grew up with, and would talk about, my grandfather, and all the other descendants of Frederick Douglass that these other people knew, is where I actually gained the power of knowledge of who Frederick Douglass was, outside of reading his narratives. And so through my young life, I did not have that pressure. I know that, based on people telling me later in years, that I did, I had talked about it. I might have, wrote reports in school, but I really don't remember all that, because to me, it just seemed maybe it was just part of that, is, just the opportunity for me to use some information to be able to write these reports and stuff, even though it was personal. So it wasn't. I was in the military at the time, in the Army, and I had the opportunity to display some actual historical artifacts that we own on Frederick Douglass, and the local newspaper, was told about them, and so I was interviewed, and that's basically when it snowballed as far as my participation in the Douglass legacy. What I mean by that is actually going out, telling people who I am, and that I want to tell his story based on me being a descendant. Because prior to that, I really didn't do a whole lot based on being a descendant. I just did it all my life based on being Kevin Douglas Green.
Yeah.
So from there, I spent basically the last pushing on probably about 30 years of doing this. And it has, roller coaster. There are times I do a whole lot of stuff, and then there's times I might do something maybe once a year because, life and family today actually takes precedent over some things. So, now I have the opportunity. This is probably my 5th trip to Philadelphia.
Okay.
Hands Across Philadelphia. Nicole Ross is awesome in getting me out in the community for people to meet, or for me to meet people and try to make a difference based on my legacy and the ability to get these books to young people.
Yeah. I love hearing that, and thank you so much for sharing that story and sharing your take on it. And when as you said, light bulb went off, looking at the landscape of the world right now, a lot of people claim that they are wary of seeing or hearing slave stories, especially on TV. In the last 5 to 10 years, there has been an explosion of our stories on TV and in films, which has been great because you have, a variety of stories that are being told and more need to be told. But some people claim that they are wary of hearing slave time stories. How do you feel when you hear that? And what do you say, especially when you are actively reminding folks of the legacy of Frederick Douglass and why it's important to keep his name alive and learn more about his life?
Well, my take on that is, as you stated, that the stories and the experiences are different. Enslavement was enslavement, but the experiences were different. And so, partly based on history, the story of slavery was told from one lens. So in some cases you think about you think about the history of film where one camera was used to make a movie, to where now there's then someone came along and started using multiple cameras to record a TV show or a movie. And that's kind of the idea now, is that you have to get different views of the same story. Even if you don't, some people don't agree with the story. Some people don't want to hear about the story for different reasons. Sometimes it's too painful. Sometimes it's too eye-opening. Sometimes it's some people, unfortunately, even in this day and time, you would think, how do people not know the story of slavery, regardless of their economic, social, historical, racial background? There's lots of things people don't know just based on what they're not told. You don't you don't know what you don't know. And so now people, some people, they start to find out this information, and you start to see people that actually, I like the view of the people actually taking the interest Part of that interest is the ability for us to be able to tell our own story. So to have filmmakers and directors, producers, writers, all these people to be able to tell the story from our own view and not have to be apologetic about it, regardless of who likes it or don't like it. That is the story. This is in some cases, this is the story, the way that it was told, that it was written originally by knowledgeable, educated Black people in the 1800s.
Yeah.
So again, my take on it is, hey, the story needs to be told. You don't always have to listen, just like everything else. You can choose to drink Sprite or Coke. That's up to you.
Right. But it needs to be available. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It just needs to be available.
In different forms. It was interesting. The Douglas story and the connection, to literacy is what I think is very important, because that's what I try to point out to not only young people, but even adults within my stories, is how, because when I was at the school yesterday, I asked the question, what was one of the things that helped Frederick Douglass escape? And the young man said, knowledge. That's not the answer I was looking for, but that was the correct answer. So when I broke it down to him, I told him it was his ability to read and write and understand how the system around him worked. So he started learning to read and write as a young man, but up until he was in his early 20s when he escaped and gained his freedom, it was based on that education, that basic self-education and knowledge that he was able to escape. And another young man said, being able to move fast. I said, well, Douglas, when he escaped, he didn't necessarily need to move fast. He was able to buy a ticket to get on a train and a boat, and he was able to sit down and only go as fast as the transportation would take him, but he knew where he needed to go and how to get there. And part of that is he didn't bring, notice to himself, because he just pretty much fit in the landscape of what he was doing. So that knowledge was, his story of his ability to gain his freedom. And not everybody's story is like that. As we know, all the different slave stories, somewhere along the line, there are, as common as a lot of them may seem, they are actually different, because the people are different, the circumstances are different, the places are different. So that's what I think is important, and you have to actually pay attention to see the differences. If you're not paying attention, you think it's another slave story.
Interesting. I appreciate that answer. I know we're almost out of time, but for anyone who is listening on the radio or anyone who is watching us on Facebook Live, can you share how other young people who cannot see you in person this weekend get a copy of the book for free? Is there a way that they can get a copy? Is there a website they can go to? Can a teacher of a specific classroom give you all a call? How can that happen?
Well, locally, the Hands Across Philadelphia is the local connection for teachers, educators, parents locally, to try to contact Hands Across Philadelphia and get a connection and try to get something. But outside of that, the Frederick Douglass Family Initiative, fdfi.org, that is the actual website where the books can, not only can you go there to purchase books or donate to the purchase of books, you can actually read the mission of Frederick Douglass Family Initiative and see the different programs that they are engaged in. And I guess what's really important is that as we know, different organizations that involve young people don't always have all the immediate funds to be able to provide those books to young people. So we highly encourage different organizations, civic organizations, fraternal, even private people to reach out and go there and say, hey, I have the opportunity to donate funds to be able to get these books, and especially if you're local, I think that a real good idea would be to contact Hands Across Philadelphia so they can help you with that contact and getting books, and actually the opportunity of possibly having books signed by myself or me coming to be able to present those books to the young people. And that connection, not tooting my horn, but you see people's face. I can understand the difference between just being given a book or actually be given a signed book by the person who signed it, who's actually a descendant. So
Yeah. That's awesome. And hopefully people will do that. What is the number and or website for Hands Across Philadelphia once again?
We are working on that one.
That's all right. We want to make sure the folks have the information as we close out the segment. Yeah.
All right. So the phone number for Hands Across Philadelphia is 267-251-89. I'm sorry, there's a misspelling. The last four numbers will be 6900.
Okay.
So that is the phone number for Hands Across Philadelphia. And just as as a reminder for Saturday is the Hope Ally dinner. Tickets are still available at HOPEALLY.org. So Saturday, it's going to be, like I said, in the advertisement of it, it's a historical dinner. It's going to be a historical event.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day. I know you have to get back to the breakfast and all the activities over at the Union League. So I thank you for taking the time. Mr. Kevin Douglas Green, thank you for joining us here on WURD.
Thank you very much. And again, Tiffany, I'm going to have to hire you to do my intro for the rest of my life.
I would love to. Thank you. I would be honored. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, do not touch the dial. We will be right back with more conversation after this.